Chapter 42. The Descendant.
No! Elsa cried her heart out as she rested on Raphael's chest, sobbing, grunting, and panting. Elsa's extreme emotions perplexed everyone who was around. Power surged through her as everything became white. The fight came to an abrupt halt as no one could see anything in the brightness. But things got more erratic when her powers got channeled in a more destructive manner. The earth cracked open from where she stood to a few 100 meters in a flash second. Whoever or whatever stood in its path fell, losing their lives. No one had a chance. They couldn't see anything, while the place echoed with loud cries for help. It was the first time Elsa displayed a power related to the earth, but it was too much for anyone to handle until Lucian penetrated the land, stopping it from wreaking more havoc. But it backfired when it only enraged Elsa more. She burst out, making a scream as the air became heavier and darker. She rose as her eyes became completely white, with blue and red and green rings flickering inside. The brightness disappeared as fast as it had appeared. Dark clouds evaded the area out of nowhere as lightning hit a tree near Lucian. A violent tornado developed from unstable air, along and ahead of cold fronts, touching the clouds above and the surface below. It was as brutal as Elsa's rage. It was not going to stop at anything. Anthony tried to fight it off by combining the powers of himself and the dagger, but it was still getting through to him. "Elsa, stop it!" A meek yet loud voice came below her. As if the world stood still, Elsa's body calmed. She was still floating above, her eyes still a shade of white, but she was calmer, unsure if what she had heard was true. She looked down as a single teardrop fell. It was Noah. The promise she'd made him flashed across her mind. What was she doing? Getting reckless was easy. She could kill everyone in a second and end the war. But they were not here to do that. She must fight against evil, and not everyone present. Elsa burst into tears as she fell with a thud. Noah rushed to her side, despite Kira's apprehensions. He could never be afraid of her. Noah embraced Elsa in a tight hug and let her sob. He knew the pain of losing a mate, even if it was a distant memory. But wasn't he still heartbroken, even now? "I can't lose him, Noah," Elsa sobbed. Noah had no words of solace for Elsa. He wasn't sure how he was feeling about all this amidst the battle that had already resumed as soon as Elsa stopped demonstrating her powers. At a certain level, he felt guilty, and at others, he felt relief. Lucian came running towards Elsa and Noah, killing off every beast and rogue in his path. He hissed, seeing Elsa in the arms of another man. She was Raphael's mate, dead or not, and his disappointment was enough to snap both of them back to reality. "Noah and Elsa, I presume? Anthony is far away from us, and that's the only advantage we have as of now. I think Elsa has something to do with why he can't use his powers, and neither of us can use our daggers as effectively as we did before she arrived. But he is still brutal when nearby. After all, he managed to hurt Raphael. One of you has to take charge of the fight on this side. I must fight Davinia. The moonlit wolves need me," Lucian groused. Noah nodded his head. With Raphael out of the picture, they were one strong wolf short. He understood if Elsa needed some time to heal before fighting back. He looked at Elsa, who was staring back at him. They both were having overwhelming emotions. But Noah pushed it back and ran to put up a fight. Elsa wanted to join them, but she was feeling extremely weak. She was not even sure if she could control her powers if she let them out again. The grief and guilt were overbearing. She'd lost all hope. She checked again Raphael's pulse, but there was nothing. She laid beside him, her head over his chest, as if they were not in the middle of a fight. She was not afraid to die any more. Elsa was lost, imagining a future that was not possible anymore. The pain inside her was soul-scarring. She was not prepared when Anthony appeared beside them out of the blue from thin air. He had a wide, evil grin. He looked more powerful than he had a while ago. It could be because of how Elsa's aura had weakened, or could be because of how low she was feeling. It was like she'd lost all faith.
We met many times, but it is the first time we are in such proximity. I am Anthony, a pureblood.
Anthony sniffed to absorb her faint essence of lavenders. Elsa didn't flinch from her place.
If it makes you happy, I spared your opal friends. My army of rogues and sires are now attacking the moonlit side, leaving the fighting on this side. I already have you. I need the dagger that Lucian has, Anthony informed her, sitting beside her. I always thought I would have to sire the Midnight Wolf to get you. Never had I imagined that it would be his death that could help me win you. Had I known that, I would have killed him long ago, Anthony mocked, creating a shield around them with the help of his dagger. Elsa sat up, looking at Anthony blankly. If he was here to kill her, she didn't care. Maybe it would relieve her of the pain she was feeling. Death would be easier, perhaps. She was stone cold now. There were no tears, rage, or fight left inside her. All she felt was a great loss of losing her mate. I assumed you were his mate, but Divinia said you died. Of course you survived. From what I see, you can control all the elements. I'm sure that pretty boy hurt your feelings pretty badly. You left him for such a long time only to meet him dead, Anthony mocked.
Why are you telling me this? Kill me and get it over with, Elsa whisper yelled.
Kill you?
Anthony burst out into a peal of wild laughter. That perplexed Elsa. If he didn't want to kill her, then what did he want?
You are my Luna. You will help me achieve my dream of centuries. What Ida could not give me, you will give me. A chance to rule.
Anthony revealed his big plan in front of Elsa, but she scoffed at it like it was a child's joke, annoying Anthony. What makes you think I would do anything you say? Elsa grunted.
You won't have a choice after I mark you. We will share our powers and fate. You're not a regular wolf, Elsa. You are a descendant of Ida, who was a direct scion from the first descendant of the moon goddess. You don't understand your powers and abilities, Anthony chuckled. The grief and pain of losing a mate would be there for days, and this would be a perfect opportunity for Anthony to mark Elsa. Elsa scoffed. Who was Ida? What was this man even talking about? It was true that she was weird with all these overflowing powers, but it could be because she was from some alpha blood or something in her blood like the sires, not her blood itself. But an idea formed in her head from that statement of Anthony's. How have I never heard of Ida if she was so powerful? If she was what you claim, why is she dead? Elsa jeered. Ida was mad to reject me for wanting to rule the world. Together we could have achieved so much. After all, we were true mates. But she had to run away right after rejecting me and fall into the arms of some normal wolf. It only weakened her as she created a line of powerful wolves and a line of dormant ones. She ran for years, trying to hide. I tried to find her and her descendants, but she'd given away her child to some foster home after masking their aura and powers so that they lived like pathetic wolves. She had given away her dagger to someone to meet her needs. What a life we could have built, and what life she chose. I gave her another chance when we met after almost a half-century, but she was too stubborn. I was angry. I had to kill her with my own hands.
Anthony narrated a story he had never told to anyone. The truth is, Anthony had loved only once. Even after Ida rejected him and left him, he could never think of another woman other than her. When she was alive, he yearned to have her. He had killed her, but it didn't diminish his love for her. It only made him more ruthless. He was left with nothing but one aim. A desire to claim Ida's descendant drove him. He knew one day someone from her clan would be powerful enough to break the mask Ida cast on her lineage. He was patiently waiting for this day. While it engulfed Anthony in his storytelling of the past, Elsa got a perfect opportunity to try something reckless. She moved on top of Raphael and bit the side of his neck, the marking spot of mates, with her extended wolf's fangs. Power surged through her, and she could feel it passing down to Raphael. Anthony realized what Elsa was up to too soon. He put all his might to pull her from Raphael, but Elsa put all her strength to complete the marking from her side. She wasn't sure if it would work on someone dead or almost dead, but she had to try. Didn't Anthony say wolves of her lineage were special and their mates shared powers and fate? When she could feel that the marking was over and there was no response for Raphael, she sighed. It was worth trying. Anthony gloated, dragging Elsa away from Raphael. Elsa didn't know she still had some tears left in her before 2 trails of tears escaped her eyes, when she realized it could probably be the last time she would ever see Raphael. She looked around to ask for help, but they were in some bluish shield that prevented anyone from getting inside. She submitted to her fate. Anthony was on the verge of disappearing from the city to go somewhere he could deal with Elsa, when a loud thud gained his and Elsa's attention. Boom! In front of them stood a perfectly healthy and alive Raphael. He looked stronger and smarter. He smirked as he ripped the daggers from Anthony's hand before Anthony disappeared, leaving Elsa behind. Elsa's eyes widened with shock. The marking worked. She could see her mark glistening just above his collarbone. She walked near to him and traced her fingers over his handsome face. She needed to make sure this wasn't some horrible figment of her imagination. But when Raphael's rough skin felt real under her fingers, she hugged him in a tight embrace. Dream or not, she was not going to leave him ever again. The Opals, who were standing in a protective fighting stance around the shield, gaped. Noah was speechless as he crumbled from inside. Nothing was making any sense. The shield, Raphael, or the mark he bore? What happened? No one could tell, but the fight was again looking in the favor of the Opals in the moonlit city. Raphael leaned, reaching for Elsa's marking spot. It was not a place to do something like that, but all he could feel was a powerful urge to complete the process that was not going to go soon. Elsa's eyes widened as Raphael's sharp teeth pierced her soft skin. She wanted to pull away from him. She wasn't sure if she wanted this now. But soon, feel-good hormones washed all over her entire body as fireworks erupted inside of her. She could feel their powers intertwine and felt everything Raphael had felt for years. She could understand his yearning and need for her. She could see how sorry he was. Elsa closed her eyes, embracing her fate and Raphael as her mate. Not too far from where the Opals stood in shock and awe, Anthony reappeared amidst bushes and trees. He again could not use his powers full-fledged. Their powers have awoken, and now that the Midnight Wolf was back, his chances today looked bleak. At least he needed the Earth Dagger before he could flee to live for another day. Anthony linked Divinia. Chapter 43. Death is a Distant Rumor. On the other side of the battleground, Lucian pierced through the rogues and beasts. He could see many dead bodies, and the ones left to die were already infected like Seth's pack from the other night. More than the war itself, the infection was going to kill the wolves of the moonlit. Lucian targeted the beasts specifically. He killed every beast and rogue that crossed his path. The Earth Dagger had awoken, so it not only wounded the beasts but swiftly killed them. Lucian could feel the power surging in him. He'd almost died trying to keep up the shield while awakening the earth dagger. The dagger was returning the favor by boosting his strength and stamina. He didn't need to shift to his wolf to counteract his enemies. He could leap, glide, move, and jump with great ease. Lucian's eyes kept dancing through the arena, searching for Davinia. He knew it would not be easy to fight her. He had already realized that Davinia was related to Anthony by blood, or at least that they are the same group of wolves. He must kill her before she does anything more gruesome. When Lucian finally saw the fighters of his pack, he rushed to their aid, even though they were a little far away. One beast had the strength of 6 or 7 warriors. He could tell it had already injured 2, infecting them. At least the Silverlet wolves didn't abandon their friends. They safeguarded and wounded while trying to dodge the beast's attacks, and also trying to kill it using years of training and tactics. The beast growled at a charging Lucian. Lucian swiftly ducked the beast's attacks as the beast clawed the tree nearby after missing its target and losing its balance. Lucian turned quickly, grabbing the beast's outstretched hand. He stabbed the beast with a small opening, killing him instantly. The beast dropped dead, shifting back to its human form. The Silverlets cheered for their alpha while the infected ones recovered immediately.
"Where is Davinia?" Lucian queried.
"Someone last saw Davinia moving towards Silverlet border. We're on our way there when the beast attacked us," one of the fighters responded.
"Did anyone get any news about the Black Moon pack?"
Lucian implored. Their complete absence was still bothering him. With Raphael dead, he was worried about what Davinia could have done to them. The fighters exchanged an exhausted look before Gab took it upon himself to explain. "Jander, and everyone who could fight, was found heavily drugged in the dungeons. Davinia locked the rest of the pack members up in their safe house."
"That bitch! She wanted to save the Black Moon so that they could serve her after the war. Has someone given them antidotes of Wolfsbane?" Lucian probed.
"No, our runner informed us of this, but with this attack it skipped our minds," Gab admitted.
"Maybe it's better for them."
Lucian shook his head, leaping to move towards his pack. When he reached there, he saw the dead bodies of several of his wolves. It boiled him to see that Davinia had killed them so ruthlessly. He charged towards her, following her scent. Kieran, his mother, and his father were trying to defend Davinia. They were exhausted and heavily wounded, still alive because of their skills. Lucian growled at that. It was loud enough to stop her from darting the ice daggers as they instantly melted and dropped to the ground. Davinia was looking ferocious and inhumanly strong. She was glowing with blue sparks emitting from her while her eyes had a ring around them. Davinia smirked. Finally, the alpha.
"I was always curious about that thing."
Davinia unfolded a malicious grin as she tilted her head slightly and looked towards the dagger in Lucian's hand.
"And I always knew something was off about you."
Lucian grumbled as he jumped towards her to attack, but Davinia let out an invisible power blast that knocked him a few meters away. Lucian grumbled as he could hear his bones cracking. Davinia grinned at that.
"How did you do that? Awaken the dagger? You're not a pureblood like me, else you would have superpowers like me. I smell no magic in your blood,"
Davinia questioned as she gaped at him. She looked evil. Lucian's father, Vincent, fired a silver bullet at Davinia. She was quick to move from the spot, but it managed to scrape her arms. It only annoyed her. She glared through Vincent while blood started oozing from his nose and ears.
"Stop! What do you want?"
Lucian cried, but his pleas fell on deaf ears of Davinia. She let out a sinister smile as she tried to squeeze the blood out of Vincent through her magic. Over many years she had mastered controlling anything liquid. Amalia tried to defend, but Davinia raised her hand, forming an ice blade that moved towards Amalia with great speed. Lucian attacked Davinia from the back, ignoring the pain in his lower body. Light emitted from the earth dagger, making him look like a glowing figure. It was enough to distract Davinia and allow Amalia to dodge the attack. Kieran used the opportunity to move Vincent inside. Amalia had to follow her husband, even though she felt torn between her duties as a mother, wife, and Luna. Davinia was expecting an attack from the top as Lucian jumped to reach her. She smiled as she created an ice spear prepared to pierce him through the heart, but it baffled her when creepers and roots emerged from the ground, tying her up.
How?
Davinia squealed. The roots and creepers binding her kept getting tighter and tighter, making it difficult for her to breathe. She couldn't concentrate even to use her powers on Lucian.
Look over there. You're so lost in your ego and that you feel everyone is below you.
Lucian smirked, moving his wrist, flashing the dagger. Lucian could not utter a word as tears escaped her eyes from pain and suffocation. Lucian scoffed, doing something that made the branches and twigs around her neck loosen a bit. Davinia coughed.
I might not be a pureblood the way you think, but I am still a descendant of Ida, Lucian said with pride.
Mother!
Davinia's eyes watered at that, confusing Lucian.
What did you say?
Lucian grunted, sitting in front of Davinia to be able to hear her more clearly.
My mother's name is Ida. She was my father, Anthony's mate.
Davinia broke down into tears.
Ida married my great-great-grandfather, Oliver. It's impossible,
Lucian whispered. But when he looked at Davinia's face, they did share some features. He was confused for a second. It didn't matter who her mother was when she was pure evil.
I wish you were like Ida, but you are more like Anthony, Lucian mumbled, raising the dagger.
Wait! I realize how my father has manipulated me. I was wrong and forced into this line. If you don't listen to me, he'll kill me.
Davinia broke into tears, making Lucian soften. It was not in Silverlet's to feel emotions, but this dagger must have corrupted him. Lucian sighed.
How can I trust you?
My father. He's hiding behind a large oak tree, waiting for me to get him the earth dagger. He's weak now. You can tell your friends,
Davinia blurted out.
Why would I trust someone who just sold her father for her life? Lucian groaned.
Because my father is not like yours. He would kill me 1,000 times to get what he wants. I'm more scared of him than anyone. If you kill him, I can be free. I don't want to follow this path. Didn't I protect my pack from the ruthless attack by drugging them?
Davinia tried to convince Lucian. Lucian shook his head, trying to figure out how things changed so suddenly. He linked Gab and asked him to verify the information. When he confirmed that Anthony was indeed exhausted and hiding behind a large oak tree with a woman tending him, he sighed.
You failed to tell me about this other woman with him, Lucian scoffed.
It must be Mantis. She's a harmless witch who can only make potions,
Davinia replied. Lucian loosened the surrounding grip, allowing her to sit in place.
How do we kill Anthony? Silver can't kill him, Lucian queried.
The dagger.
Davinia pointed at Lucian's dagger. Lucian had a conflict of interests, as he found it difficult to decide if he should kill Davinia or take her as a hostage. She'd been helpful. If her father made her do such evil things, then she still had a chance at redemption. Of course, not as a Silverlet, but elsewhere. While he was pondering about his decision, he felt a sudden punch in his chest. Davinia was loose. She snatched the earth dagger, using the surprise element in her favor. Small ice blades were lying on the ground. She must have used them all this while to cut the roots, branches, and creepers. Lucian snickered at his foolishness. Davinia was evil. Davinia, now recovered and in possession of the earth dagger, ran, changing into her wolf. Lucian groaned, shifting into a larger amber-brown mix wolf, following her in tow. Davinia was having a hard time carrying the dagger. Having it somewhere prevented her from using her magic. It was as if it had a mind of its own, and it wanted to go back to Lucian. The dagger was challenging her. Lucian pounced at Davinia's wolf, strangling her. He clawed her shoulder and broke her front leg in the process. Davinia shifted immediately, trying to use the dagger and kill Lucian, but his wolf was smart enough to rip her hand from her body. Blood oozed out from her ripped hand. She still struggled to reach her detached hand that was still holding the dagger. Lucian shifted into his human form. He moved swiftly and pulled the dagger from Davinia's ripped hand. He placed it near her throat, revealing a sinister smile.
"Tell the truth, at least before you die," Lucian demanded, cutting her skin a little.
My father is a direct scion like Ida. He killed her in cold blood when she was his mate. I wish Ida was my mother. Death would have been a distant rumor. The dagger could have been useless today. My only regret is that I can't see my father kill you all when—"
Lucian didn't let Davinia complete her sentence. He sliced her throat open, damaging her vocal cords as blood spurt from the cut. Lucian wiped some of her blood from her face. He sighed, getting up and looking over Davinia's dead body. He looked over the horizon before turning into his wolf and returning to the war scene. Chapter 44. The Loss. Noah shifted to his gray wolf instantly. He couldn't bear standing there and seeing Elsa getting marked by another wolf. After the marking, he knew he had no chance. It would be insane even to think of Elsa anymore. His heart pounded. He felt rage, but he had a better way of directing them. Without waiting for anyone, Noah pierced through the war, getting deeper. He killed every rogue on his way. Left and right, he ripped out their hearts. The beasts who had moved to the other side of the war were now returning with more ferocity. Probably they could feel the loss of their leader. Kira could feel Noah's helplessness. She knew he was heading straight for death. Fighting the rogues has always been handy for Noah, but he was targeting the beasts alone. It was not that they were unaware of the infections they impart or their fighting skills. They always had to deal with one or two beasts at max, and the most they could do was exhaust it until the effect wore down. Once it shifted back to its human form, they could kill it, but in doing so, they lose more warriors than they intended every time. The only time they saw several beasts was during the battle at Cynthia. They were losing it, if not for Elsa's outburst. But now Elsa had her things to deal with, that handsome midnight black wolf. Kira could tell from their body language that they were fated mates. It was weird, but she could understand why Noah allowed himself to fall for a woman who already had a fated mate. It was similar to her position. He should have stopped his feelings when there was still time. Kira was not only Noah's beta, but his friend as well. On top of that, she loved him like crazy enough to follow him anywhere. So when Noah moved recklessly towards the incoming fleet of beasts, Kira shifted immediately to follow him to his reckless destination. Noah was faster, stronger, and angry, but he had also cleared a path for Kira. He'd killed every rogue wolf left in that part of the war. It made it easy for Kira to decrease the distance between them. But a sudden punch out of nowhere on her belly made her roll over a few meters away, hitting a large tree trunk. She screamed in pain, shifting to her human self. She looked for who had punched her, but there was no one. She knew it had to be Anthony, the maniac. He was the only one powerful enough to vanish and reappear. She got up, trying to be more vigilant this time. When Anthony did not reappear, she groaned. She looked for Noah, who had gone out of sight by now. She tried to connect with him with the mind link, but Noah blocked her. The only other thing she could think of doing was reaching out to Elsa. She'd barely managed to reach Elsa when Anthony appeared out of nowhere. A loud blow landed on her chest, making her fall to the ground. Anthony grinned. He was turning out to be the weak link of the war. Without making it obvious, Kira swiftly flipped, swiping up towards Anthony, making him land on his face. The surprise move benefited her, but the victory was not long-lasting. Anthony spit blood from his mouth as he bit his lips. It pissed him off to take a blow from a beta of some unknown pack. Had she been unnecessary, he would have already ripped her heart out. But with Davinia dead and Lucian out loose with the Earth Dagger, and Raphael in possession of his air dagger, he had only one chance: Noah. When Anthony saw the gray wolf with the moon-shaped black mark on its forehead, gone berserk on his path towards the beasts, it baffled him. It changed the equation. Anthony was clear that Elsa was not only the descendant of Ida, she was the blessed child of the moon goddess, making her a direct descendant. Anthony realized he didn't have a chance against Elsa now that her true mate, the Alpha King, was already marking her. Their destiny, along with their strength and life, was intertwined, making them practically impossible to defeat. He should have been the one to mark her first, but he missed that chance. So his only option was to make it out of here alive so that he could live for another day. Everyone is born with weaknesses. The Gray Blessed can wield the 4 elemental daggers to make it one, just like Elsa, making him Elsa's royal guard. Only the marking process had empowered Raphael with these special abilities. No wonder he couldn't sire Raphael, Anthony thought. Even if somehow he and Mantis had managed it, Raphael could not have been able to wield the dagger to defeat her. Anthony must make Noah a sire. It was the only way he would get the opportunity in the future to fulfill his dreams. Anthony was wrong to perceive prophecy. The Midnight Black Wolf was supposed to be dead, creating an opportunity for him to be the chosen mate. He should have sired the Gray-Blessed Wolf to defeat Elsa when she tried to intertwine her fate with Raphael, giving him a second chance. Even if it's impossible to kill Elsa without the sword, even with just one dagger and the Gray Wolf, he could defeat Elsa. He even had a favorable situation with 2 daggers in the fight scene, but it was too late now to enact any of that. His only way to sire Noah and escape was with his help. Anthony was still struggling to devise a method to capture the Gray Wolf or defeat him without getting too much attention when he saw a brown wolf following his toe. He could tell it was an opal following his alpha. So Anthony attacked the weak wolf. He would capture this wolf and make Noah surrender to his wishes. Anthony let out a vicious, cunning half-smile when he kicked Kira in the stomach. He quickly squeezed the air out of Kira's lungs, only letting her breathe a little so that she would not die.
"Call your alpha, now!" Anthony groaned, his eyes red with madness. He could not lose this battle entirely.
"I tried. Noah's blocked everyone," Kira stuttered.
"Then try harder!" Anthony choked her a little to show his strength.
Kira knew Anthony must have found some weakness. He was only asking for Noah so that he could use him. She'd prefer death over letting Noah get hurt by any means.
"I can tell you're not trying enough. The way his name rolls from your sultry mouth, Wolf, I can tell he's more than just an alpha to you. He will listen to you, kitten. Try harder before I kill you. You're not the only opal in this battleground," Anthony threatened, his eyes piercing her soul naked.
Kira sighed. Anthony doesn't need to know her love for Noah. Even when Noah couldn't understand them, it was useless to expect others to understand it. She had no obligation to explain what Noah was to her, but the threat was real. She was not the only opal. How far had she understood this maniac? He would not rest till every opal was dead. Being a beta, she couldn't let that happen to her pack, but the alpha gone berserk with heartbreak? She couldn't let down her pack at such critical times. Even if it killed Kira from inside to ask Noah for help and put him in this situation, she had no choice. Her duty towards her pack was the utmost priority. She used all of her strength to reach Noah until he had to let her in.
"Kira, not now! I beg you!" Noah whined.
"Help me,"
Kira said feebly over the pack link.
"What happened to you? Where are you now?"
Noah blurted out in a panic-filled voice.
"Come back.
Kira was being strangled before she could speak another word. It startled Noah. Elsa was on the other part. Also, he'd killed every rogue in his path, so what could have happened to Kira? She sure sounded like she was in trouble. No choice left, Noah turned towards the northern borders. Kira coughed when Anthony released the invisible shackles around her neck as air gasped in. She was panting, almost on the verge of life and death.
You think I cannot understand what you're trying to communicate in your pack link? Did you forget I can control the air and the waves it generates? Anthony burst into a peal of laughter. Anthony grabbed Kira. He picked her up against her will, carrying her to a more secluded place, where Mantis was waiting for them. Anthony was counting on Noah to track her smell. Once Noah was there, Anthony would mask their smells. But Noah was fast. He didn't waste any time in arriving there. He let out a loud growl to see Kira in a dreadful state, fighting for her life. It pissed him off even more. Had it not been for this crazy maniac, he wouldn't be at the losing end. Shift, so that we can have a meaningful talk, Wolf, or else your little friend of yours is going to suffer. Anthony let out an evil smirk while tightening his grip, making Kira suffocate and then cough for air. Noah groaned, but adhered to Anthony's demands. Leave her. I'm here. Don't you want me? Noah looked into Anthony's eyes with no fear. What does he have to lose in this life? Nothing. It seems she is important to you. If I leave her, what leverage have I on you, Wolf? Anthony chuckled.
Noah, no, run!
Kira struggled to finish her warning. Run? Didn't you just call him to rescue your little ass? Anthony said, amused. He released some air so that he could speak to her.
Noah, run, save our pack,
Kira was able to say more clearly and loudly this time. All she wanted was for Noah to get the message of what Anthony was up to now. Kira didn't fear death for her pack or Noah. She pledged her life for this pack. Kitten, your life is too precious to him, even if not to you. Anthony burst into evil laugh. You bastard! Noah charged towards Anthony while Mantis hid behind Anthony. But Anthony was quick enough to raise his hand and stop him from moving. Invisible shackles of air barred him from moving even an inch. Noah grunted, protesting and fighting against the invisible force. I will give you a choice. Either you can have the pills and be my sire, or she can die. Anthony released some pills into the air that floated towards Noah. Noah knew what that meant, but he had little choice. To make it clear to him, Anthony even started strangling Kira. Noah grabbed the pill to take them while Anthony let out a grim smile, releasing her enough to breathe. Despite Kira's protests, Noah had made his final decision. But just then, energy washed up through the place. Anthony's hold over Kira and Noah loosened as they struggled to escape. Loud cries of rogues and beasts were audible as they burned, choked, froze, and were strangled. Creepers, roots, and branches emerged from everywhere, killing the enemy. Noah and Kira knew it was Elsa. She had finally recovered from her despair and had taken charge of the battle. They both had a chance at survival without surrendering to Anthony's wishes. Anthony had to run behind them, as his powers didn't work under this energy surge. When finally the surge stopped, practically killing 90% of all the rogues and all beasts, they could hear a loud growl. They could see Elsa and Raphael behind her in his wolf form approaching towards them. Raphael let out a loud growl, blood dripping out of the corners of his mouth from a fresh kill. Anthony knew it was the end. The knife in his pocket wouldn't even prick Elsa and Raphael, but he was not willing to let it be a win for them. He must inflict some damage and be able to die in peace. Anthony disappeared into thin air, only to reappear before Noah and Kira. He aimed at Noah to finish him, but Kira stepped in front of him. The blade pierced through Kira's soft abdomen skin as blood spurted out. She gasped as her eyes became red with pain, and tears trailed down her cheeks. She was finally going to die, but at least in the arms of Noah. She slipped down as Noah held her in his arms, grunting and complaining about her taking the blow. It should have been him. Why did everyone need to die saving him? Anthony disappeared into thin air. He felt terrified that he'd even failed to finish the royal guard. Ida was right all along. The moon goddess did not mean for him to rule the world.
Kira tried to smile through her pain and tears. She had dreaded to be this close to Noah, to be in his warm embrace. If she had known only death could make her wish come true, she would have died a long time ago. "I love you, stupid." Kira accepted her true feelings. She had to confess them now that she was about to die. "Why didn't you tell me this earlier? But nothing has changed even now. Let me take you to the doctor. We can finish this conversation later." Noah tried to lift her, but Kira grunted in pain. "I'm okay. I am going to die, Noah. I'm happy I could tell you the truth. Will you kiss me?" Kira stuttered and struggled to express her last desire. Elsa's eyes watered as she felt guilty for snatching Kira's opportunity to be with Noah. Raphael, now in his human form, tried to coax her, but it was not about them at this point. They knew they were too late. Noah cried hard. He was a fool not to realize Kira's love for him. He leaned in to fulfill his friend's last wish. When their mouths touched, no mate sparks erupted, nor did it feel like the way Noah had felt while kissing Elsa. That was a forbidden kiss. This kiss with Kira was full of remorse and guilt. Kira deserved his attention and love when she was alive. Kira felt happy for once. She felt fulfilled with that kiss from Noah. Her longing heart had finally found some peace and warmth. She sighed. She knew she could die in peace. She closed her eyes, tired of everything. She wanted to sleep in Noah's warm embrace. Despite everyone's protests, Kira closed her eyes, only to never open them again. Noah tightened that hug as the loss weighed down his heart for the rest of his life. Chapter 45. Evil Born, Evil Dead.
"Anthony, we have to leave. I can sense her power field gone. It could be grief because of the dead girl. Surely she mattered to Elsa."
Mantis shook Anthony, who was still recovering from the loss. He lost his dagger to the midnight black wolf, his daughter, couldn't recover the earth dagger, his beasts and rogues were all dead or succumbing to death, and the chance to kill the gray blessed wolf? The only thing he managed to kill was a beta who was of no value. Why was fate so unfair to him?
"Now!"
Mantis created a sigil on the trunk of a tree and chanted something in ancient Latin. A door opened. Even though Anthony had already lost the battle, and dying was the only thing left, his ego was too hurt to leave. Mantis had to drag him through the door before the sigil and the door disappeared. It was a dark tunnel. The only lights were coming from the torches that were too far apart, but as they traversed through it, a large door appeared at the other end. Anthony scoffed at that. He had to run from the war scene again? What was it with Ida that even her descendants were so powerful? All he wanted was a life with her while they ruled side by side. Was it too much to ask from your fated mate?
Mantis, what do you even see in me to stick beside me all these years?
Anthony whispered from behind. Mantis sighed. Didn't he already know it? She adored him, loved him for giving her a second meaning to her otherwise useless life. She would be dead now if not for him. Does she really have to answer that now?
"Anthony, let's get to a safe place. The tunnels are nowhere safe. Once Elsa recovers, she will track us."
Mantis faltered, trying to avoid the topic.
I wish I could return your feelings, but it's impossible. No matter how hard I try, Ida is engraved in my heart.
Anthony mumbled from behind. Mantis's eyes watered with that as a tear droplet escaped. It was not something she didn't already know, but hearing it out loud was heartbreaking.
"Why did you kill her then?"
Mantis asked. She'd always meant to ask this. She knew how much Anthony loved her. So what could be the reason behind him killing her?
I had to. Ida had masked her lineage. Only her death could uplift the curse slowly. Elsa is that blessed child. I was still reconsidering my options, but she wanted to kill me. I had to kill her in my defense. She had made it so difficult,
Anthony expressed, as the death of Ida in his arms flashed through his eyes.
Here we are. We must pick what we need and create another base before it's too late.
Mantis wiped her tears and made the suggestion. Anthony nodded his head. He was glad at least Mantis was with him. When they opened the door, it led them to a large hall of their hideout. It had been his home for years, so abandoning it like that was too much. Anthony wanted one thing now: revenge. He no longer cared if he couldn't have Elsa. All he wanted was to kill everyone responsible for his downfall. Everything he'd built over the years shattered in a flash second. Anthony and Mantis had only gotten inside after closing the sigil when they could sense another presence. At first they thought it was Elsa, Lucian, or Raphael. They could sense the presence of an elemental dagger, but Anthony shrugged off its possibility. It was too wicked.
Who are you?
Anthony growled. He was too worn out to try to use his powers, but when they could not hear any reply, it panicked them. It was time to leave this place too. They paced toward an invisible door, hiding a door outside. But a booming, loud laugh echoed through the place. Mantis had just put a sigil when someone, or something, crashed into her opposite wall. She lost her consciousness then and there. Anthony doubted that Mantis had already died from that blow. He ran towards the elevator. It was a long way out, but now the only way left. By now he knew the water dagger, and something powerful, who owned it. He wanted to see who it was, but he was clearly exhausted, drained, and less of an elemental dagger. When he reached near the elevator, another loud laugh echoed throughout the place. Water started to fill inside the elevator, short-circuiting it and the entire underground house.
Who are you? What do you want from me?
Anthony grumbled, using his power to sniff the person. He could smell a powerful aura. Even if it was not as powerful as Elsa, but it was certainly powerful enough with that dagger. It must be a witch. But before Anthony could do something about the witch, he could feel his powers weakening. It had to be Elsa. Before he could run or do something, he could sense the witch abandoning him. Fear started to creep inside him.
Elsa, I know there's a lot to deal with now, but we must hurry before Anthony escapes.
Raphael snapped Elsa out of her haze. She didn't realize when she was sucked into grief by Kira's death. Knowing her powers made her powerful, but it also gave her heightened emotions. She could feel everyone's grief, and it was beginning to surmount, making her cringe. Elsa looked at everyone standing near them. Too many recognizable and new faces. Among them was Riker, oblivious to her new identity. He found it odd that they called her Elsa, but with her new and original appearance, it was hard to recognize someone who you never really cared about knowing. Noah was still holding Kira by his chest, his eyes red with fury. The Opals, her new family, were mourning beside them. Kira was dead. A few of them looked with hope towards Elsa. She had revived Raphael, so maybe she could heal Kira, or bring her back from the dead. But how could she tell them that it was different with Raphael? She had sealed her fate and powers. They shared a unique link, blessed by the moon goddess herself. Every cell in her body wanted to bring back Kira, but it was beyond her. Even though the moon goddess had made her powerful, she still had limitations. Elsa was getting submerged under the pressure of expectations and need. She was still figuring out herself. The only person who didn't look at her with expectation was Noah. He was determined to avenge Kira.
Take this. Davinia said you could kill a pureblood with it, but I also found that he is a scion of the direct descendant of the moon goddess. So, it must just hurt him fatally enough for you to do the rest." Lucian handed over the earth dagger without hesitation. He could feel the dagger wanted to go with her.
"What is this?"
Elsa spoke, confused, while Raphael flashed out the dagger he carried with him. They were identical. Lucian's dagger was more beautiful, with a beautiful handle, but that was it. Strangely, Raphael was no more affected by the silver after the marking.
"I guess there are 4 of them. Here, take the earth dagger. I don't know how, but I feel like the dagger can talk back to me. I know it's strange."
Lucian handed over the dagger to Elsa, but she was unsure what to do with it. Suddenly a hand snatched both of the daggers, wielding them as one. No one knew what happened or how it happened, but it just happened. Noah could do it. His eyes were fierce with determination as his eyes changed to that of his wolf. It baffled both Raphael and Lucian, who knew they could trust Noah.
"Find him,"
Noah begged Elsa. The more they delayed the revenge, the more uncomfortable the guilt he felt. Elsa tried using her powers, and soon a road of branches and twigs were formed that led them to the tree. But when Elsa stopped near a large oak tree, Noah and Lucian got confused. But Raphael knew exactly what it meant.
"It ends here."
Noah frowned.
"As if they entered through that tree trunk?"
Raphael queried. Elsa nodded her head in agreement. Raphael was right.
"Follow me."
Raphael was glad he remembered and paid attention during his captivity by Anthony and Mantis. He drew the sigil and enchanted the same ancient chant 3 times.
"Aperire ostium occultatum. Aperire ostium occultatum. Aperire ostilum occultatum."
A door appeared on the tree trunk, surprising everyone. He'd tried doing it before, but it had never worked. But something had definitely changed after the marking. He felt more powerful, more invincible. They followed the scent of Mantis and Anthony through the tunnel, but at some point the scent was gone. The tunnel split into several directions.
"What's next?"
Lucian grumbled. But as if she knew what she was doing, Elsa closed her eyes and did something. A gush of wind blew out the torches in the unwanted directions, all except one. The torches in the correct path were brighter than ever, making it easy for them to move.
"That was a badass move, Elsa. No wonder he thinks you are the blessed child."
Raphael chuckled, confusing everyone.
"How do you know that?"
Lucian probed. Elsa and Noah were still recovering from their loss.
"They kidnapped me. All they did was talk on our way here."
Raphael groaned, remembering about everything he had to suffer. That reminded Elsa of how Anthony had almost killed Raphael. Her blood boiled with that as the aura got stronger. Not far away another door appeared. She knew Anthony was behind the door.
"I wonder why they did not use the sigil to bring everyone there, and instead used the road," Lucian queried. "Perhaps it was not powerful enough to facilitate numerous wolves, or perhaps the beasts were huge. How would I know?"
Raphael clucked, opening the door for everyone. As soon as they entered through the door, Raphael and Elsa could sense the presence of another powerful entity. At the same time, the half-sword in Noah's hand glowed brighter for a brief second before returning to its normal state.
"What was that?"
Lucian muttered as Raphael ran towards the corridor that hid the invisible door. He saw Mantis's body lying there, her heartbeat too slow for her to live long.
"Perhaps a friend of his,"
Elsa suggested.
"I doubt it. Anthony would never hurt Mantis. Someone else was here,"
Raphael cautioned.
"Another one?"
Lucian scoffed. "I can tell whoever it was. It had another elemental dagger. I can sense it." Noah spoke for the first time in a while. While it baffled the majority to find that another dagger was nearby, Elsa felt relieved to hear Noah speak. Let's find him, Noah groaned. Elsa nodded her head. She closed her eyes. For a long second, nothing happened, while the three men looked at each other and Elsa. But soon she rose from the ground. Sparks began flying from her body everywhere before she slowly went back to normal.
Anthony is moving towards the top floor,
Elsa informed, flying away, leaving the three men confused. Raphael looked toward the elevator, but it was not in any condition to run. While Lucian and Noah took the stairs, he had other ideas. He tried to fly like Elsa a couple of times, but when he couldn't, he grunted and followed them up the stairs. When they reached the floor, Raphael behind both Lucian and Noah, it shocked them to see Elsa looking at Ida's photo. The resemblance was too much. In fact, she looked like many of the members of the frames. Now that she looked at Davinia's photo from near, she had a few similar structures, but she looked most like the lady in white. She had similar eyes, hair, and posture. She was curvier and more graceful, while Elsa was leaner. They are your ancestors. You're a pureblood like them, and so is Lucian. Raphael took it as his responsibility to inform her of the truth. Elsa scoffed. She had doubted that for a while now.
So why does he not have powers like me?
Elsa probed.
When the twins were born for Ida, my grandfather did not get the magical abilities,
Lucian confirmed. Elsa's heart was overwhelmed. Even if it was too distant to call Lucian her family, he was the only one that shared her blood.
Are you sad about Davinia?
Elsa asked as they crossed Davinia's frame. It would have been easier if I had seen her portrait before. I feel like a fool, Raphael scoffed, ignoring the portrait and not wanting to say any more. They had more pressing matters to deal with now. Noah opened the door with a thud when Anthony was almost about to escape. He threw the half-sword at Anthony that pierced through him. He grunted in pain as blood oozed out of his wound.
Don't you want to know about your father?
Anthony asked, hoping to live by bringing up this sensitive matter now.
How can I believe that you're telling the truth?
Elsa grunted. Her eyes were heavy, tears threatening to roll down any minute.
Because I believe he died in front of my eyes, making a fool of me, but saving you. How pathetic of you that your father had to die for you,
Anthony grimaced. He was bluffing. It could have been any man, but the more he thought, the more he believed his bluff.
You're lying,
Elsa wailed. Energy balls formed in both of her hands.
Drop down your hands and give me your word that you won't kill me in exchange for this information,
Anthony bargained. It was his only way. Elsa was too powerful, and his powers didn't work in her presence. Plus, he was exhausted. Elsa glared at Anthony, but had to restrain her urge to kill him then and there. He was probably the last being who could tell her more about her parents. She nodded her head in agreement. It baffled Noah the most. He ignored her, trying to stab him in the stomach, but Raphael pushed Noah away. Lucian and Raphael tried hard to stop Noah while he punched Lucian and kicked Raphael out of anger. He didn't mean to hurt them, but he was not going to let go of Kira's killer.
Noah, please, just let me hear him,
Elsa begged, falling to her knees. Noah's heart ached to see Elsa in such a condition. It hurt him to choose between Kira and Elsa. But he nodded his head, drawing back while Anthony burst into a peal of evil laughter.
Your father was a historian who believed in the supernatural only to discover he was one of them. Your father was too afraid when he figured out what you are and who he was. When you were still a toddler, it was easy to tell what you are. Those eyes and hair could easily betray your true identity. But your father was smart. He even hid in human cities, trying to protect you. But when we found out that he was hiding in Moonlit City, we attacked them. That time they fell to our wrath, but your father escaped on the battlefield and ran towards the cliff. He was carrying you in his back. He jumped at the cliff, looking straight into my eyes. I knew he was mocking me for my defeat. What I couldn't figure out was that he faked your death all along so that you could live." Anthony gloated. Elsa's eyes were puffy and red, partly from grief and partly from anger. She blamed herself for her father's death, but he knew it was because of Anthony he had to endure it. She looked at Noah and Raphael with begging eyes again, and that's when it clicked to Anthony. Noah, for once, smiled that day. He pierced the sword through Anthony's heart while Raphael decapitated Anthony. Anthony's end was as abrupt as his life was long. His life flashed through his eyes for a brief second before he took his final breath. "Hi," a young Anthony spoke to a mischievous girl hiding behind a sack of grains.
"Shh! You can't tell them I'm here,"
the girl giggled.
"You're the noisy one." Anthony rolled his eyes, hiding along with the young girl.
When the guard's step was now no longer audible, the young girl came out laughing from her hiding place. She had the brightest smile and the most beautiful eyes. She started pouring the grains from the sack into her small bag.
"What do you think you're doing stealing the royal treasure?"
Anthony scoffed. He was frightened to get caught.
"I'm going to feed the poor. It's so cold out there,"
the little girl explained.
"Why? My mother is taking care of it. She's the queen of this part of the land,"
Anthony boasted. The little girl rolled her eyes.
"She is, but we need to do what we can. She can't produce more plants like me. Does she have the earth magic?"
Anthony's eyes widened at that. That's right. Like his adoptive mother, he had air magic too.
"Who are you?" "I am Anthony, scion of the Blessed One and son of the Queen,"
Anthony introduced.
"Ida, scion of the Blessed One and daughter of the farmer who brought these grains for you."
Ida was more proud of her heritage.
"Farmer? A peasant?"
Anthony was confused. Why would a scion be given to a farmer by the Blessed One?
"No, my father is the king of our village in the woods. I need to be close to the environment to understand my powers,"
Ida giggled, running with her small bag. She sowed the grains on the barren, icy lands, but soon saplings sprouted from it as they became full-fledged plants. Ida looked at Anthony with pride.
"I like you,"
Anthony declared. He knew it from the first time he saw her.
"I like you too. One day I will be queen of the jungle. I will protect everyone. Will you help me?"
Ida offered. She stretched her hand to seal their deal.
"We will rule the world together to make it a better place. I promise,"
a young Anthony promised her. Hand in hand, they went back to steal more grains, taking their first steps toward their unique journey. Chapter 46. Wicca. Elsa broke down into tears as the sun was going down towards the horizon. The purple, orange, red colors in the sky were like her emotions, all over the place. Noah was feeling better after killing Anthony, but he still could not stop feeling guilty. He considered himself responsible for her death. Noah tried to detach the swords, but he couldn't. So he just dropped them where he stood and walked away through the opening Anthony was trying to use to escape. Anyway, everything was darkening here with the dusk. Raphael held Elsa as long as she wanted. He was still new to the powers that he could feel inside of him, but it was like he had no access to them. But he managed to create a small flame. Once Elsa felt better, Lucian strolled towards the sword, picking it up. Even though he wanted it, he knew he couldn't leave it there. He tried to separate the daggers, but it seemed impossible. So he just passed it to Raphael to try his luck. But when he couldn't do it, Elsa took it. As soon as she touched it, she could separate the daggers easily.
"You are the Blessed One, so probably only you can separate them,"
Lucian whispered. They were still figuring it all out. Elsa sighed. She had no energy left to have a debate over that. Nor did she want the daggers. She handed the air dagger to Raphael and the earth one to Lucian before coming out. Elsa wanted to burn down this place to dust. So once they were out, Elsa did exactly that. They stayed there until some of the rage in their hearts died down. Raphael created the sigil on a large oak tree, but this time it didn't work. They were unsure how to get out of the forest. No one was sure of the way out. They had given away all hopes. By road it would take them at least a day to reach, and Elsa was unsure if she could teleport. Plus, there were 4 of them now. They were still discussing whether to spend the night in the forest or find a way out, when a glowing figure appeared. Before anyone could respond, the figure knocked them out in just one swift move, except Elsa.
Who are you?
Elsa took a protective stance. She wouldn't mind ripping her heart out. She could tell it was the same presence she had felt when they'd entered the hideout for the first time. The figure turned out to be a woman. She was elder to Elsa, but they shared too many striking similarities. It baffled Elsa to see her there. Who could this woman be? She was definitely powerful enough to knock out 3 alphas.
If you have not figured it out yet, I am your Aunt Wicca.
Wicca played with the water dagger as she introduced herself. A creepy smile was plastered on her face.
Aunt?
Elsa was unsure if she should be happy or angry. If she knew her, then why had she not come for her all these years?
Child, I wish I had come to get you earlier, but I just couldn't do it. You see, your mother died preventing me from finding you. She cast a spell on our coven, making me and everyone, including myself, forget about you. While your father had to run away with you. The poor wolf couldn't hide from his own kind, but once you embraced your true self, all the magic started wearing out.
Wicca chuckled.
You're a monster!
Elsa screamed. What was it with today?
Call us what you can, but you are a witch too. So your powers belong to all of us. Don't be greedy like your mother.
Wicca blinked her eyes too many times, trying to look like a victim. But Wicca couldn't keep up the act. She burst into a vile smile.
It's not hard to figure out why she wouldn't share her powers with you.
Elsa shrugged.
You are mean for a child.
Wicca winced.
Call me that again, and I will rip out your tongue. I just killed one villain. I wouldn't mind killing another.
Elsa grunted.
We will see who wins in the end. Don't consider me to be Anthony. He was weak. He had lived long with a broken heart. It tainted his spirit. But I have no weaknesses, and if it makes you think that those wolves and that dagger can help you win against me, I warn you that you must get a lot better hold of reality,
Wicca boasted, playing with the tip of her knife.
I don't know why you're so proud, but I don't see anyone with you, just one dagger. You should be glad you're alive after taking on all that nonsense.
Elsa groaned.
If this is nonsense, then, honey, what would you say when you learned I killed your mother? You know, revenge runs in our blood.
Wicca had a twisted grin. It enraged Elsa to find out about that. She blasted into a ball of energy as she tried to choke her. Wicca acted as if she was in pain, before bursting into a peal of sinister laughter. It confused Elsa why her powers didn't reach Wicca. It was like Wicca was immune to them. But before Wicca could say anything else, Raphael woke up. He growled as he protectively stood beside Elsa. She knew she must leave before it was too late, so she did something smart.
That's your ticket out. You can use it or follow me, Elsa.
Wicca stabbed Noah with the water icicles and created a sigil on the oak tree, creating a passage for them to escape while vanishing into thin air. Elsa could tell Wicca was still nearby, probably watching them, but it was a battle for another day. Epilogue.
No!
Elsa screamed at the top of her lungs as she woke from the nightmare. She was scared to find her bedside empty. Where was Raphael? Suddenly the door creaked open with a thud. Elsa sighed to see the silhouette of Raphael. He hurried to her side, pouring some water in a glass for her. "Another one?" Raphael whispered. When Elsa didn't reply, he knew what it was. Ever since they returned from the forest after meeting Wicca and killing Anthony, Elsa was having nightmares. Sometimes it made sense, and other times it was complete rubbish.
Yes, this time it made no sense. But I think whatever my mother did to make me forget is coming back ever since that night. And I think she's alive.
Elsa sighed. Raphael didn't know what to say. Elsa believed that her mother was alive, and he was going to support her.
Where have you been?
Elsa probed. If Raphael was not with her at this hour, then it must be Noah or Lucian. Elsa was happy that they could become friends, but she knew Raphael had a hard time in the beginning, when she revealed how close she had been with Noah. "Noah wanted to leave, so Lucian and I needed to talk some sense into him," Raphael mumbled. As soon as Noah had recovered from his injury, he wanted to leave the place. Raphael couldn't blame him for wanting that. Noah lost his friend, and Raphael took away Elsa in front of his eyes. It bothered Raphael that Elsa and Noah had been close, but who else could he blame for all of it other than himself? Had he not been reckless, and not kept a snake in his pack, then they wouldn't be facing such dreadful things. All he could do as repentance was accept the past for the sake of Elsa, and he obliged towards Noah for saving her and taking care of Elsa when he didn't.
Noah is still angry with me.
Elsa scowled. "No. Yes, he is heartbroken, but how much I could understand him. He's not the only one to hold grudges. He still cares for you and understands what we share," Raphael assured.
Did you discuss this with him?
Elsa pondered. "I did." Raphael kissed Elsa's forehead to reassure her.
Thank God. I didn't know how to explain it to him. I hope he stays. The war's not over,
Elsa whispered. "Let him go. He needs to seek love and warmth. He's leaving the Opals with us for a while," Raphael explained.
He's disbanding the Opals?
Elsa frowned. "No, he just needs to rediscover himself and life. Needs some time for himself. We owe him that," Raphael insinuated. Elsa let out a deep sigh. Raphael was right. Noah had been anything but selfish. He deserved his share of happiness. Moon Goddess must have created someone for him too.
We must train our wolves. Jander and the other wolves have already recovered from the side effects of the wolfsbane and silver. We must begin training for everyone in the moonlit city,
Elsa suggested. "It's the middle of the night and a little late to discuss such things. Plus, Lucian and I have already been taking care of it. Jander is especially disturbed by what happened. He was hell-bent to step down, but he needed a lot of convincing. But before you take your responsibilities as the Luna of Black Moon, you must go and stay at Lucian's pack. Understand your family, and in process yourself a little more," Raphael suggested.
I don't want to leave you.
Elsa clung to Raphael's chest. They'd been separated for so long that it made her afraid to lose him again. She should hate him for everything he inflicted on her, but she couldn't help but love him. When they marked each other, they kind of shared every emotion and memory. "I will visit you every day. Lucian and his family are very persistent. He wants you to call him Big Brother. They've even arranged a ceremony to induct you as one of the Silverlit. You know how rare that is? You should be very proud of yourself." Raphael smirked.
That is never happening. I'll never call him Big Brother. He's a stubborn asshole like you.
Elsa burst into a smile, and Raphael's heart skipped a beat. Raphael looked at Elsa intently. He'd missed her more than words could express. Finally, his life had meaning. He would stand by her forever. Nothing and no one would be able to separate them. He swallowed some saliva as he looked at her plump lips. Before Elsa could utter another word, Raphael crushed his lips on hers. It was the best feeling to kiss his soulmate. They were one and together. Once he was fully satisfied, he undressed Elsa as quickly as possible. Elsa flustered at that. She'd waited for years and had always imagined how to make him feel sorry for everything he'd put into her. But now that they were together, she craved him. Raphael positioned himself at Elsa's entrance. He looked at her intently, his eyes overwhelmed with so many emotions. Elsa could see his eyes changing. Probably Jera was taking over like their first time. But Raphael regained his composure. He smiled at Elsa lovingly before pushing inside of her. It was the best feeling in the entire world.
Ah, ah.
Her voice echoed the entire floor, probably the whole mansion. Who knew she could be that loud? But those were the cries of her desire, her need, her weight, and mostly her broken heart that was finally healing. It was nothing like Elsa had dreamed of. It was breaking her heart, yet making her feel unnaturally good. She was puzzled. How could she feel so complete when he was buried inside of her? She should be hating him for what he did when they first met, yet he was the only one who made her heart flutter while making her knees go weak like jelly. He kept pouncing on her from behind, putting all of his strength into it. His fingers were buried into her plump ass cheeks. He never felt so complete. She was so tight, her inner walls wrapped up completely around his long and thick member. It was like she was made for him. Her breasts were the exact size he liked, not too big, not too small. Her pink core was tight. Her red butt cheeks clearly screamed that he was too rough. The feeling of being buried deep inside her was itself so fulfilling. A sense of pride ran through him. He never knew it was possible to feel so deeply for someone while having sex. The hunger for her, her body, only kept increasing. He didn't doubt his manhood or charms, but yet it felt like he was finally a man to his woman at that point. How can this petite figure make him feel this crazy? Was she a witch? No. She was more. She was someone his heart yearned for. Tears rolled down her eyes. She was thankful he couldn't see her face. It was too pleasurable and painful. She couldn't hide her need and show her anger for everything he had put her through. Not only her sex, but her heart was tearing apart. "Fuck! I am never going to let you go." And he pumped harder inside of her, shooting his load deep inside her for the 10th time that night. The end. This has been The Claiming His Mate. Written by Jennifer Knight. Narrated by Darren Draper. Produced by Darren Draper.